College is a wild ride for young adults, and their mental health often suffers. This podcast addresses the inner battles many college students struggle with. You're listening to Normalize It Forward, where we have raw, unfiltered conversations about young people's biggest mental health problems, how to handle them, and how to achieve a more resilient mind. Time to get rid of those heavy burdens and focus more on self-love and care. Here is your host, Mark Lehman.
Hello, my name is Mark Lehman. Welcome to Normalize It Forward, everybody. I am super excited to welcome into the show Russ DeRosa. Russ, how are you today?
Very good, very good. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it, Russ. Russ is in his 24th season as a strength and conditioning coach for men's ice hockey at Boston College. In addition to his responsibilities through hockey, Russ is in his 18th season in charge of strength and conditioning efforts for all of BC's Olympic sports. Prior to his promotion in 2007, he had served 5 seasons as an assistant strength and conditioning coach on the Heights. DeRosa has worked with more than 50 BC players who have been selected in the NHL draft, including 22 first-round picks. Since his arrival, more than 55 players have gone on to compete in the NHL. That's impressive. Impressive, Russ. DeRosa joined the BC Strength and Conditioning staff after spending 7 years in the mid-90s at Yale University, the last 5 as Assistant Director of Sports Conditioning. In that position, he oversaw the strength and conditioning for 32 intercollegiate sports programs. DeRosa received his bachelor's degree in health and fitness from Springfield College and earned a master's degree in exercise science with an emphasis on exercise physiology from Southern Connecticut State University in 2001. DeRosa is currently a member of the National Strength and Conditioning Association. Russ, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah,
absolutely.
Like I said, really excited to be on your podcast and looking forward to the conversation.
As am I. I got so many questions for you about what you've done and where you've been.
Sure.
I guess I want to jump in and just sort of mention I've been on my own health and wellness journey, I would say, for a consistent 2 years now. And I know that so often do I talk about with patients, with students that I work with, wellness and where that fits into kind of balance and just overall health. You're an expert in the field. So let me ask, strength and conditioning, where does that play into balance and happiness overall?
Well, I think one of the big roles that strength conditioning plays is not only the ability to stay healthy, but when you come in and you're on a structured program and you have consistency, it develops a routine. And I think routine with the training and obviously what you do is, whether it's weightlifting along with cardio, that's going to keep you healthy. But having a routine and being consistent, I think in the long run really helps to develop you more, both physically and mentally. This gives you that opportunity now to know that you have structure in your life, and that as you go through and you progress through the program that you're doing, not only are you building in some opportunities to get better both physically with your strength, but also mentally. And knowing that you have this routine set up can help you to develop through all the other stuff that you face and adversity that you face through everyday challenges.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The word routine is such a healthy word. I guess I'm wondering, because you see a lot of athletes and I see a lot of both athletes and non-athletes, how would you say routine looks, like specifically looks for a college kid?
For a lot of them going through the course of the day, especially here at Boston College, you do have to go to school here.
Sure.
You're going to your classes, you're meeting with professors. But on top of that, a typical day will work out at 6 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the guys and women are in at about 5:30 in the morning, going to the training room, doing whatever they need to do to prepare before the workout. They'll come in, we'll work out from 6 to 7 in the morning. They'll have their breakfast. They'll do whatever rehab work they need to do with the athletic trainers and whatnot. And then they go to class. And then they're back in here usually by 1:30, 2 o'clock, and they do their pre-practice warm-up. They go to 2:30 will be a team meeting. They do video, and then they come back and we'll do another warm up before they jump on the ice. They go out, they practice, they come back in the weight room afterwards. They'll get their supplements. They'll work on their flexibility, work on their mobility, work on any type of issues they may have had in the past, trying to prevent that for this season coming up. Mm-hmm. And then they go, either they might have class at night again, or they have to go over and go to study hall. Okay. Especially our freshmen, they have to go through that, through the study hall and stuff. So their day is really, planned out for them. Yeah. Especially once you get in season. A lot of it's an old reference to a movie, but Groundhog Day. You're doing that same routine day in and day out, but what we find and what I found as a coach is that they need that routine and they need that structure. Not only because it allows them to continue to get better, but what they do is they get a sense of comfort. And they know that, okay, I need to be here at this time. This is what I'm doing. This is how I can, this is when I could fit in some extra work with Russ, or this is when I could fit in some extra work with our Learning Resource Center or whatnot, and allows them to really plan their days, their weeks, their months.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, it sounds highly structured, and it sort of sounds like there isn't much wiggle room to kind of sway, and right. I guess I'm wondering, the non-athlete, right, from your perspective, who's coming to school this fall. I find that, so many freshmen coming in have a vision of what school will be like, and then they get there and it's a little bit different, right? And it can be overwhelming. But I like the word you use, routine. I think for so many kids, not only having a routine of when they get up, what they do after they get up, having a breakfast, going to class, having some time to work out or some format of fitness, having that routine can be, I think, a lifesaver for so many kids. Can I push you on the topic for a minute? Because I think we're on the same page with this. Sure. Why do you think that is, that routine? Why is that such a big deal?
Well, I think the reason is because they are young and they haven't experienced. So now all of a sudden you're in uncharted waters. And I'll use my son as an example. He's 21 years old. He's going into his senior year at American University.
Nice.
But, as his freshman, he went to a really structured prep school for high school. And all of a sudden you're in college and it's a Monday and you only have one class and your first class is at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Now, no one's telling you to get up, eat breakfast. No one's telling you to, hey, make sure you get lunch in. No one's telling you to prepare for your class or anything like that. Yeah. And he just watching him go through that and trying to help guide him through that a little bit, he realized it. He said all of a sudden, I felt like to have all this time, I felt like I was less prepared for my classes, less prepared for what was in store for me that day. Yeah. Because, one day I'm waking up at 9 in the morning, another day I'm waking up at 11. And, so freshmen coming in, even though you're not playing a sport, it's going to be a whole different situation, and we have some athletes where they only have night classes.
Yep.
So once again, maybe their freshman year, they had classes in the morning or whatnot. So every year, even though it's structured and there's routine, it changes. Yeah. And they have to be able to adapt to that. And I think that once you get all that freedom, that's where you either, learn to put yourself on a routine, or you have to seek help for someone to help you build that structure and that routine. And I think this is true for whether you're in college, whether you go to your first job or whatnot. People who I felt that I have met in my life and that I've worked with, people that had routine, people that have structure, are usually people that can handle a lot of adversity in different situations, because it doesn't become a panic situation because all of a sudden all this stuff is being thrown at them. A lot of our male and female hockey players, we have open ice during the day. And the ones who go out there and have a plan, make their own plan. Hey, I want to work on skating backwards. I want to work on, my wrist shot, and I want to work on, transitioning from one end of the ice to the other end of the ice, as if it was a game scenario, tend to develop better than the ones who go out there with a bucket of pucks and just try to wing it. And coaches can help them with the structure, but the ones who really already go out there, already have that feeling, already know about that structure. And then kind of some of them, they're at the point where they'll even take notes on their own. Hey, I felt I did this. I feel I need to work on this. I got to talk to coach about that. They're at another level. So, in a roundabout way, just getting back to the regular student going there, the more they can kind of have an idea of what they want to do, what they want to accomplish. And that's the other thing, I think it's tough. 17-year-old student who your whole life, you've been going to class every single day, Monday through Friday, and class starts at whatever, 7:30, 8 o'clock, and you leave school at 2 o'clock, and you've had a person telling you, go to this class, go here, go that. It's tough because, especially depending on the campus you're on, BC's campus, it's not that, it's not a huge campus, but you still have different parts of the campus. You have to figure out where your class is.
Sure.
Even that alone, if you're going to a place that's a big campus, we travel, you go to UConn, you go to UMass, those places are massive. Those campuses are vast. And so, just trying to, I think that could kind of lessen some of the anxiety of being a freshman and whatnot. And fortunately for an athlete, that's already put in place for you. And I think that's where someone who's not playing sports anymore could really kind of benefit themselves by creating that own structure, or just at least having a plan.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I hear in my field, there's trends, but you hear lately in the last couple of years, I've heard a lot of people talking about, treating school like you have a 9-to-5 job, I want to point out to the kids that are listening, and even to the parents that are listening, you got two individuals that are professionals in their fields talking here today with over 50 years of experience. And both of us strongly feel like that routine is a game changer for many kids. And so, those kids that are coming to school and they've got their 5 classes kind of scheduled, but they don't know anything else that they're doing. It may be helpful for parents to kind of have that conversation. I have it in my office all the time with kids to say, hey, you have a 9, you have a 10. Well, what are you going to do after that 10 o'clock? You know what I mean? You're done for the day. Like, what do because you're going to have kids that are going to go back to their room. They're going to take a 4-hour nap, or they're going to go and smoke pot, or they're going to do all sorts of things. Like, you got to decide, what do you want to do? And what is part of your routine? So, healthy eating, exercise to me is just a given. Like, you have to consider that because you're definitely going to feel better if you do that. But I like what you said a lot about athletes. And I think for my non-athletes that are listening, I think it's helpful for them to understand why there's such structure with athletes, and why coaches do that. Because I think without that structure, athletes probably wouldn't get done what they need to get done, right?
100%. 100%. And the academics here are very demanding.
Yeah.
And sure. So, if you let one thing slide, now all of a sudden that does affect. So, hey, you know what? I slept through class. I didn't do this. The problem is now you're a couple of weeks behind academically. That affects you on the ice. I don't care what anyone says, because it's in the back of your head. You're thinking about, I got to get off here. I should have read these chapters. I didn't read them. I have a test coming up now. Now all of a sudden, where you should be able to focus when you walk, we want them when they come and they walk into the locker room or they walk into the weight room, your whole focus should be at practice, should be, be present. One of our coaches, our former coach here, Jerry York, who longtime coach, he would kill me for saying this, but a legend in college hockey. Mm-hmm. He would have one of the players come up in front of the team and read the book Precious Present. And, and was constantly always talking about, being where your feet are and making sure that you're locked into that. You're sitting in a classroom, you shouldn't be thinking about what you're going to do on the power play. You should be thinking about what's going on, and all these things that you do and that these kids go through at a young age really are lessons that they take on for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
Whether you go play in the NHL or you're playing in the AHL or whatnot, or you're going to work for a Fortune 500 business, these are all lessons and recipes for success that a lot of them don't understand that they're getting while they're here now, but as they come back, that's when they really realize it. And then once again, that's where I feel like, it's tough. 17, 18 years old, you're trying to handle all this hockey, and you got your goals with hockey, and then you got your goals academically. It can really become tough. So to kind of have that, those people around you to guide, and then our Coach York retired, and Coach Brown has taken over and has done a phenomenal job of keeping that culture and educating the young players on how to stay structured and how to really take care of the business you need to take care of that's right in front of you.
Yeah, it's very well said, Russ. It's funny. I feel like, to be fair, I'd probably think this as well at 17, but it reminds me of when a kid gets their driver's license, and they look at the parent as though they've been driving for 30 years. Like, I got this. I'm good. I got it. And at my age, I'm still learning. You know what I mean? Right. But I think freshmen in college, they get to campus and they're like, you know what? I'm the exception. I don't need to do this. I don't need structure. I don't need routine. I got this. I guess I'm curious to ask, because I deal with mental health so much, and I see the anxiety levels and the depressive levels with kids in particular in college, unfortunately, are really high. And I guess I just wanted to ask, from your perspective, beyond routine, what can kids do when they get to campus to avoid some of those pitfalls?
I truly feel getting to campus and then going to meet with your advisor, going to meet with professors, even if you're not having trouble in a class or whatnot, going to their office hours and just really kind of getting to know the professor that that's teaching you. And being a part of campus, I think, plays a huge role. also.
Tell us more about that, because I agree.
So I'll give you an example. When I was at Yale and I was coaching there in the 90s, I would speak to just as many pro scouts for whatever sport it was as I would for recruiters that were working for like Goldman Sachs or working for these top 500 investment banking companies.
Yeah.
And, I said to him, I said, geez, how come you guys are so into our athletes? And, the thing are, the athletes here at BC and at Yale, they're both very intelligent.
Sure.
But what he would say, or she would say is, we could go out and get the person who's been on campus and all of a sudden, gets that 4.0 perfect student and all that. But they showed up freshman year and basically was either in the dorm or in the library, and you got the athlete or you got a person that's been involved with campus throughout the 4 years and has that academic background and is just as smart, but can handle adversity. That was the biggest thing that they liked about the athletes, was the fact that, hey, if you go and you lose a game or you have a bad play or a bad shift or something like that, you can move on. Yeah. So if you're an investment banker, and believe me, I don't know, I don't claim to know about investment banking.
Neither do I.
Say you lost a lot of money or you had a bad investment, that didn't end you. That didn't break. Right. That didn't, that you were able to figure out how to get past that, move on, and then continue. How do I become more successful? Yeah. Whereas the other person who's very smart, can't handle that because they haven't experienced it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great point. It's a great point.
So whether you're playing a sport on campus or you're doing intramurals or you're going and, you're just getting involved with a club, it's going to teach you things that you're not going to get in the classroom. And I feel like the more you could be part of this campus, the more you could really get into, we are a Jesuit school. So, there is opportunity if you're into religion and whatnot to really kind of get involved with that. And the message that they have, if that's something that you really enjoy, you can get involved that way. But I truly feel that once you become part of the campus that you're on, the comfort level becomes much higher, and then you don't have that situation of, hey, I can still go and be involved with this group, this club or whatnot, which is also going to help you create structure. And it's not that, hey, I feel like it's me against the school.
Yeah,
it's a great point. That kind of answer your question?
It does. Yeah. It's a great point, and I think it's a great suggestion for all incoming students. And a lot of schools are going to these activities fairs, the first week or two of school. Right. And I always encourage students, I'm like, go check it out, because there are booths and clubs for everything, and I think that the involved student oftentimes has a better experience, and I think what you just said about recruiting agencies and businesses and even athletic organizations is really accurate, and I think really important for students to hear that. Adversity happens, right? And it's part of the process, part of the journey. I think my question isn't, will it happen? My question is, what will you do about it when it does?
Exactly.
And so, I think that, as you said, I find myself saying this all the time, college teaches you a lot of things outside of the classroom. And, some of those life things, those are things that students take with them, far past college itself. I will say, I think the typical student that underestimates, you were talking about the rigor at BC, underestimates the rigor of college, can get behind rather quickly, right. And I find that, these things have created poor social skills for some kids. And so even the commentary of going back and seeing your teacher or connecting with an advisor, all that stuff can be really challenging for kids. I would say that from my perspective, they've got to figure out a way to do it anyway, whether it's connecting via email, trying to find people that, professors that maybe aren't as scary to them that they can, connect with, whether it's a TA or particular personality type. But I would say that, for students, in my opinion, students get behind academically. I mean, it can be a week or two. And before they know it, they're now experiencing symptoms of anxiety, symptoms of depression when they've never experienced them before. I guess I'm curious your thoughts on that.
No, 100%. And then what happens is that then creeps into everything.
Yeah.
That creeps
100%.
into their social life. They start to become more reserved and then, like I said here, not only are we competitive athletically, but academically, this is a very competitive school.
Absolutely.
So you get involved in a classroom and you're one of those kids who normally, hey, coming from my high school, I was one of the top, 2%.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you're here and you're like, I got a C for the first time.
Yeah.
Or, you know what, I've been in this classroom and these kids some of these other students are answering these questions and I didn't know the answer to this. It just becomes that uncharted water. Yeah. And then that's where, and this, I know it becomes a little controversial, but I think parents have to kind of do a better job of then saying you can give them guidance, but you can't go fix it for them.
That's right.
You can't be the one calling the professor. You can't be the one calling the coach.
Right.
Or anything like that. That's right. Where, I got to say to my son, Andrew, hey, if you're struggling with this class, you need to go talk to this person. You need to go see if you could set up a time to meet with them and go over there and do that, because the fact of the matter is, like we just talked about, this is one of those learning situations outside the classroom. It may involve the classroom, but they need to go do that. And you're right. A lot of them are so used to, hey, mom or dad handled this for me.
Yep.
Well, now this is where you have to go do that. And I think, just getting into just the mental aspect of this and stuff, I think it's great that there is so much more awareness. But along with that, I feel like it's also been used kind of almost as a handicap for the person involved.
Yeah.
Whereas there are situations where I'm wholeheartedly 100% we need to take care of. But, like just much like, and this is how it ties back into training, you got to know the difference between, and what I'm doing when I'm working out hurting me, or is that just soreness? Can I work through this? Or is this something that's really negative that's setting me back and whatnot, and not to jump around on you here, but that's where I feel like, a lot of what needs to be done has to be done by the student themselves. Outside of something really tragic or anything like that, I do feel like going and handling those situations are going to not only make them mature mentally, but also give them the tools they need to succeed once they leave here.
Yeah, I agree. I have a couple thoughts. I just want to call out, you and I are also parents, and I think for parents, it's hard. I think if you got a kid at school and they're away from home and they're struggling, to be able to guide them rather than fix it is really hard. Because I think there's that instinct for a lot of parents to just say, oh, I could make this better, but I don't think you're teaching at that point. I think you're fixing, and solving. I think for students, it's interesting, Russ. I agree with you on the concept of students really need there's things they need to be able to do to be able to make life better. So for example, if students are in a pattern where they're missing class, they got to find some solutions to get an alarm clock, to get up early, to create a new structure for yourself, try something new if what you're doing isn't working. Right. But a lot of kids I talk to, it's amazing. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to try. They're like a blank slate. So, I'll have a kid come in, I'll do an evaluation on them. They're having this problem and that problem. And I start brainstorming ideas. And it's pretty common that I'll have a kid look at me and say, I have no clue as to where to turn, like no idea how to fix this. And then I get into the whole concept of what we're going to do is probably going to be a little uncomfortable and may feel, a little out of the box. But that's where the solution lies. Because I think a lot of kids are just looking in that comfort box. They're not looking. So to your point about lifting, there's a difference between your aching muscles because you're getting a good workout, right? And versus I just hurt myself. I just went too far, right? So, I think that for kids, a lot of it is discussion with parents, discussion with, allies in terms of coaches and staff on campus that they can set up for themselves. But the one thing I'll just say overall, and I'm guessing you'd agree with me, Russ, is students need that support. They need, when they get to college, I think most students are like, I'll just do it the exact same way I did it in high school. And then they find out that doesn't work very well because college life is so different. And even the concept of what you said before, I think you said it brilliantly. To the all-star kid who gets into BC, right? They've always been the smartest kid in the room. Well, now there's a lot of, I'm not even going to use me because I wasn't that kid, but there's a lot of Johns, it's like you're sitting in a classroom with 13 or 20 or 30 other kids that are just as smart as you. Now what? Now what do you do? Right. So I think there's a lot to it. And quite frankly, the transition shouldn't be underestimated, but I love what you guys are doing at BC. I have to say, the one word that kept kind of popping out to me as I heard you describing it is there's so much support. There's so much support and structure. And
the funny thing is that our guys and women that go on to play pro hockey, they come back and they realized how much they had here, that even at that level, at the NHL or the PWHL, they got a lot of great stuff there, but they don't have that person. When practice is over, usually at those levels, everyone goes on. It's a job.
Right.
But here, they have access to whether you're having trouble with academics. You have trainers here all the time. Yeah. Something with that. Myself, strength coaches. They come in. We're pretty much here from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Plus on the weekends and whatnot. So those are things that they didn't realize. Their whole support system here, both physically, mentally, and spiritually here at Boston College played such a huge role of supporting them for their success, not only whether it be on the ice or in the classroom. That's something that, I give credit to our coaches here at Boston College. They do a phenomenal job of not only recruiting talented athletes, but just great character kids.
That's great.
And, and even so they've already had that foundation, most of our athletes, of just being a good person, and then you can build off of that and trying to get them to understand, okay, this is the next step. Mm-hmm. And so we have, I don't work with the population a lot of non-athletes. I don't work with them at all, I should say. But there's, I see them around campus and I see what they do in the community and all that. So they already have that foundation. I think, like you talked about, is they need to then find out who do I continue to seek out,
Yep.
and then lead me down that path to kind of develop more and more, both, as a student and as a person. And I think, they're definitely here at Boston College, whether you're an athlete or not an athlete. There's opportunities everywhere for you. That's where, like you said, they got to kind of take that leap of faith and kind of, I've never done this before, get out of my comfort zone, and we always talk about that with our athletes, even just when we're playing. Hey, today we were out running before this, had a dry land training session for our men's and women's ice hockey team there, and we're always talking about, hey, you got to be able to work outside your comfort zone here.
Absolutely.
You got to make sure that you're continuing to accelerate, decelerate, and whatnot, and that just carries over into everyday life. This isn't comfortable for me. Okay, but it's something I definitely have to do. And much like you said you said that you weren't one of the top academic, neither was I. So I know when I was transitioning from my undergrad to my grad, and our mutual friend there, Matt, can attest to this, because I was going to grad school at night while he was there. That was really uncomfortable for me, and trying to get that next level of academic success. And you're right, I kind of fell into it myself. I wasn't sure, who do I talk to about this? Who do I, make sure I can continue to get this success and whatnot. And it took me a little while, especially because I went back for my master's degree 2 years after I finished my undergrad. And you get back into that routine, plus coaching all day, plus classes at night.
Exhausting, yeah.
Trying to get back in there. I remember taking, now the kids, they laugh at me, but, we had a notebook and everything. Everything here now is off of
iPads and
iPads and laptops and all that. But I remember taking notes, and I was writing down everything the professor said. I wasn't in that routine anymore of being able to pick out what's important, what's not important, and all that. So,
yeah. I mean, routine's huge. I think it's so I would just summarize, because I want the kids listening to hear this. Getting involved is huge. There's supports. I believe there's supports on every campus. You guys are doing a fantastic job with your athletes and your hockey program in particular. But I hear these stories often from campus to campus, and I think, the fruit is there for the picking for kids. Like they just have to reach out and get involved. Like you said, even if it's a little uncomfortable, I think there's growth there, right? And trying something new, Well, look, I really appreciate you spending time with us today, Russ. I know you're super busy. I have to say, you are a super dedicated individual. You're spending long hours with these kids, and obviously having lots of success, and most importantly, helping kids really enjoy a sport that I'm sure you really enjoy quite a bit as well.
Yes.
So that's fantastic. But I appreciate you spending time with us today. One last question for you. As I mentioned before, Normalize It Forward, I set up a couple years ago, more along the lines to get kids and parents understanding how important it is to talk about mental health and wellness, and really that concept of, even if you're that kid who's never experienced it, you may experience it in ways that surprise you a little bit, especially in college, for all the reasons we've talked about. So in order to keep the conversation moving forward, I typically will ask my guests, do you have a friend? Do you have a coworker? Do you have a relative? Do you have somebody that that you think would be good for me to maybe interview next? Any thoughts, Russ?
Yeah, I do have to say, so we have a team priest, Father Tony Penna.
Okay.
And what Father Penna does, so Father Penna and I, when we're on the road, we travel together. So we usually drive to the games, and not only is he a good friend, but he's really become part of my family. And he does a phenomenal job of, it doesn't matter what what religion you are. He's able to bring everyone together, bring them in. But I also feel like he does a great job for the campus because he does his role. He does work with non-athletes also.
Okay.
So he is definitely one of those people that I always talk to people about seeking out and being able to look for guidance and whatnot.
Fantastic.
So, but he plays a huge role with our team, and really makes it a comfortable situation, whether the athletes having to talk about and meet with him. They go set up meeting times on their own, so it's nothing mandatory.
Fantastic.
Pretty much the whole team does it.
Mm-hmm.
And they could talk about anything and everything under the sun, whether it's religion, whether it's hockey, whether it's, hey, how do I handle this? What's your feeling on that? And he's very down to earth, and I think would be a great guest.
Awesome. Thank you so much for nominating him. I'll get the contact info from you offline if it's okay, but I appreciate you bringing his name up. And honestly, as you were talking, I was thinking, you know what? I talk about mentors all the time, and I feel like kids are lucky in high school and college to get a couple. You've had a couple people that and you and Father Tony are definitely two, I think, that stand out to me as kids would be lucky to have in their world. So Russ, I appreciate all you do. I really do. And again, your dedication is admirable. So thank you so much for your time, your energy, your thoughts, and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Mark, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And it was great speaking with you.
It's great talking to you too. Take care, Russ. All the best.
That's all for this episode of Normalize It Forward. May this conversation serve as a reminder that you are never alone in facing your mental health struggles. There are always people who can help. To dive even deeper into our journey of normalizing one of the biggest issues young people face, check out more episodes of the show at youareheard.com. It's UAREHEARD.com. Continue gaining access to the right tools, the best resources, and the most insightful advice to achieve positivity, mindfulness, and genuine happiness.